Captain Jake Morrison walked through the long hallway of the Galactic Council building. His boots made soft sounds on the smooth crystal floor. The walls around him were tall and made of some strange blue material that seemed to glow with its own light. He had been walking through these halls for 20 years, but today felt different. Today might be the last time Jake was tired. Not just tired from lack of sleep, but tired deep in his bones. Tired of being ignored. Tired of being treated like a child. Tired of watching the galaxy burn while the council did nothing to stop it. Behind him walked Ambassador Linda Carter. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Linda had been Earth's main voice in the council for 15 years. She knew how to speak to aliens, how to be polite even when they were being rude, but today even Linda looked angry. You ready for this?" Jake asked her as they walked. "As ready as I can be," Linda said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "The vote is already decided, we both know that. But we have to try one more time." They reached the big doors that led to the council chamber. The doors were huge, maybe 50 feet tall and covered with symbols from 100 different worlds. Jake had learned what some of them meant over the years, but most were still a mystery to him. The doors opened without a sound. Inside, the council chamber was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jake still felt surprised when he saw them. Even after all these years, the Altarians looked like tall shadows made of dark metal. The vegans were covered in green scales and had 4 arms each. The crystalline beings were exactly what their name said, living crystals that could change shape. There were hundreds of different species, all sitting in their special seats, all looking down at the small human section. Jake took his seat in the human area. There were only 12 seats for humans, even though Earth had more people than most of the other worlds combined. The council said humans were too new to get more seats. Too young. Too primitive. Linda walked to the center of the chamber where speakers were supposed to stand. The room became quiet. Even the weird humming sound that some of the aliens made stopped. "Honored council members," Linda began. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber thanks to the translation machines. "I stand before you today to speak about the Zephyrian slave trade." A low rumble went through the chamber. Zephyrians were a powerful group that controlled trade in 3-star systems. They had been taking people from weaker worlds and using them as slaves for over 100 years. Everyone knew about it. Everyone pretended it was normal business. "The evidence is clear," Linda continued. "Zephyrians have taken over 2 million beings from their homeworlds in the past year alone. These people are forced to work in mines and factories. They are beaten if they complain. They are killed if they try to escape. This must stop." Chancellor Vexani of the Altarian Confederation stood up. He was the most powerful being in the council, and when he spoke, others listened. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "The human delegate speaks of matters she does not understand," he said. "The Zephyrian trade agreements are legal under galactic law. These beings are not slaves. They are workers who have signed contracts." "Contracts they cannot read," Linda shot back. "Contracts signed at gunpoint. Contracts that never end." "The humans are emotional," said another voice. This came from Lord Grimm of the Hegemony of Worlds. He looked like a giant spider made of black metal. "They do not understand the complex economics of galactic trade. They see slavery where we see necessary labor." Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. He had seen the Zephyrian camps. He had been there when human rescue ships found bodies floating in space, people who had been thrown out of airlocks when they became too sick to work. The council members calling it necessary labor made him sick. Dr. Marcus Webb sat next to Jake in the human section. Marcus was Earth's top expert on alien cultures. He had spent his whole life studying other species, trying to understand them. But right now, he looked like he understood too much. "This is pointless," Marcus whispered to Jake. "They've already made up their minds. They always do," Linda kept talking. She showed pictures of the slave camps. She played recordings of people begging for help. She read reports from human doctors who had treated escaped slaves. The council members looked bored. The human concern is noted, Chancellor Vexani said when Linda finished. But the Zephyrian trade practices are not the concern of this council. Each species must handle its own internal affairs. Internal affairs? Linda's voice rose. These people are being taken from dozens of different worlds. This is not internal. This is galactic crime. The human delegate will remember her place, said another council member. This was Speaker Quill of the Andromedan Assembly? She looked like a bird made of blue light. Humans have been part of this council for only 50 years. Other species have been here for thousands. We understand galactic law better than you do. Jake saw Linda's face turn red. In all the years he had known her, he had never seen her lose her temper, but she was close now. Our place? Linda said. Let me tell you about our place. When the Rigelian Empire and the Vegan Confederacy were ready to go to war 5 years ago, who stopped them? Humans. When the Crystal Plague threatened to destroy the Outer Rim colonies, who found the cure? Human doctors. When pirates were attacking trade ships in the neutral zone, who cleared them out? Human military forces. The chamber became very quiet. Linda was saying things that everyone knew but nobody talked about. Humans did most of the hard work in the galaxy. They were the ones who solved problems. They were the ones who kept the peace. But they were still treated like children. The humans have been useful, Chancellor Vexani admitted. But usefulness does not equal wisdom. You are still a young species. You do not understand the long view of galactic politics? The long view? Linda laughed, but it was not a happy sound. The long view is watching millions of people suffer while you debate the fine points of trade law. The long view is letting entire species die because it might hurt someone's profits. Enough, said Chancellor Vexani. The human objection is? Noted. We will now vote on the Zephyrian trade question. Jake knew what would happen next. He had seen it happen dozens of times before. The council would vote, and the humans would lose. The other species would vote to protect their own interests, not to do what was right. The vote was called. One by one, the council members made their choices. The Altarians voted to allow the slave trade. The vegans voted the same way. The Crystalline Collective voted to allow it. The Andromedan Assembly voted to allow it. Only the Kepler Coalition voted with the humans. They were a small group of worlds that had always been friendly to Earth, but their vote counted for very little in the council. The final count was 847 votes to allow the slave trade, 1 vote to stop it, and 1 vote to investigate it further. The humans had lost again. Linda stood in the center of the chamber, looking at the council members. Her face was calm now, but Jake could see the anger in her eyes. This council has made its choice, she said. You have chosen to allow slavery. You have chosen to ignore suffering. You have chosen to put profit above the lives of innocent people. The human delegate will accept the will of the council, Chancellor Vexani said. No, Linda said quietly, we will not. She turned and walked back to the human section. Jake stood up, along with all the other humans in the chamber. They followed. Linda toward the doors. Where are you going? Chancellor Vexani called out. Linda stopped at the door and looked back at the council. We are going home, she said. And we are not coming back. The doors closed behind them with a soft sound. In the hallway, Jake took out his communicator and made the call that would change everything. Director Hayes, he said. This is Morrison. Execute Protocol 7. We are done here. The message went out across the galaxy in minutes. Every human ship, every human station, every human colony got the same order. Pack up, leave, come home. After 50 years of trying to work with the galactic community, humanity was going home. The council had made its choice. Now they would live with the consequences. Lieutenant Commander Susan Blake was drinking coffee in her captain's chair when the message came through. The Earth defense ship Defiance was patrolling the edge of the Sigma Quadrant, where 2 alien empires had been arguing for 3 years about who owned a small moon. Commander, we have an urgent message from Earth Command, said Ensign Tony Martinez from the communications station. His voice sounded worried. Susan put down her coffee cup. Put it through to my personal channel. The message was short and used code words that Susan recognized immediately. Protocol 7 meant only one thing. All humans were leaving galactic space right now. No questions asked. No delays allowed. Susan looked around the bridge of her ship. Her crew of 43 people had been working for months to keep the Rigelian Empire and the Vegan Confederacy from starting a war. They were so close to solving the problem. Just a few more days of talks might have brought peace. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Peter Cole from the science station, "we are receiving communications from both the Rigelian and Vegan ships. They want to know if we are still planning to mediate their meeting tomorrow." Susan closed her eyes for a moment. The Rigelians were proud warriors who thought fighting was the answer to everything. The Vegans were careful traders who planned every move years in advance. Without human help, they would never understand each other. Without human help, they would probably start shooting at each other within a week. "Tell them we have been recalled to Earth," Susan said. "Tell them we will not be coming back." "But ma'am," said Ensign Martinez, "what about the peace talks? What about the treaty we have been working on?" "Our orders are clear," Susan replied. "All human ships are to leave galactic space immediately. We are going home." Susan activated the ship's intercom system. "This is the commander speaking. All crew members are to prepare for immediate departure from the Sigma Quadrant. We are returning to Earth under Protocol 7, department heads. We'll brief their teams on our new orders." The bridge became busy as her crew started preparing the ship for the long journey home. Susan watched the alien ships on her screen. The Rigelian battlecruiser Red Hammer and the vegan trade vessel Prophet Seeker were both sending constant messages, asking the humans to stay and help finish the peace talks. "Commander," said Lieutenant Cole, "the Rigelian Captain Thark is asking to speak with you directly. He says it is urgent." Susan sighed. She had grown to like Captain Thark over the past few months. He was a good soldier who really wanted peace but did not know how to ask for it without looking weak to his own people. "Put him through," Susan said. The main screen showed Captain Thark's face. He looked like a cross between a lion and a rhinoceros, with golden fur and small horns on his forehead. His eyes were worried. "Commander Blake," he said in his deep voice, "my sensors show your ship is preparing to leave." "Are the peace talks canceled?" "I am sorry, Captain," Susan replied. "We have been ordered to return to Earth. The peace talks will have to continue without us." "But we need you," Thark said. "The vegans and my people do not understand each other." "You are the bridge between us. Without human help, there will be war." Susan felt sick to her stomach. She knew Thark was right. The Rigelians and vegans had been fighting on and off for 50 years. Only human mediators had been able to make them work together. "I am truly sorry," Susan said, "but my orders are clear. I hope you and the vegans can find a way to make peace." The screen went dark. Susan ordered her ship to turn toward Earth. As the Defiance moved away from the disputed system, she watched the alien ships on her sensors. Already, they were moving away from each other, returning to their own territory. The peace talks were over before they had really begun. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were happening on hundreds of human ships. Captain Roy Stevens commanded a massive space station called Proxima Base in the Centauri system. The station was a hub for trade and diplomacy, visited by thousands of alien ships every day. "Sir," said his second-in-command, Commander Beth Parker, "we have evacuation orders. All human personnel are to leave the station within 48 hours. Roy looked around the command center of Proxima Base. His staff of 200 people had spent years building relationships with dozens of alien species. They had created trade agreements, solved disputes, and kept the peace in one of the busiest sectors of the galaxy. "What about the station itself?" Roy asked. "We are to shut down all human-controlled systems and leave the station to local authorities," Beth replied. "The Centauri government will take control." Roy knew what that meant. The Centauri were not bad people, but they did not understand how to run a multi-species facility. Within months, Proxima Base would probably be a disaster. Trade would slow down, disputes would turn into fights. The careful balance that humans had maintained would collapse. "Start the evacuation," Roy ordered, "and send a message to all the alien delegations. Tell them we are leaving and they need to make new arrangements." Dr. Karen Phillips was working in her laboratory on the planet Kepler 442b when she got the evacuation order. She was a medical researcher who had spent 15 years studying diseases that affected different alien species. Her current project was finding a cure for Centauri fever, a disease that had killed millions of people across the galaxy. "Dr. Phillips," said her assistant, an alien named Zexthel who looked like a walking tree with too many arms. "I do not understand this message. It says all humans must leave immediately." Karen looked at the data on her computer screen. She was so close to a breakthrough. Just a few more weeks of work and she might have a cure that could save entire worlds. "I have to go," Karen said sadly. "All humans are being called home to Earth." "But the cure," Zexthel said, his voice sounding desperate. "We were so close. The people of the Outer Rim are dying. They need this medicine." Karen started packing her research notes. "I'm sorry, my friend, but I cannot disobey direct orders from Earth. Maybe someday I can return and finish this work." "Can you not leave the research here?" Zexthel asked. "I could continue the work," Karen shook her head. "The research involves human genetic patterns. Without a human researcher, the work cannot be completed. I am sorry." She finished packing her most important files and left the laboratory. Behind her, Zexthel stood, surrounded by 15 years of medical research that would now never be finished on the mining colony of Titan 7. Foreman Jack Murphy was overseeing the extraction of rare minerals that were essential for faster-than-light travel. The colony employed 3,000 humans and provided materials for ships across the galaxy. "Boss," said his supervisor, Lisa Grant, "we got orders to shut down the mine and evacuate everyone." Jack looked at the massive mining operation spread out before him. They were extracting ceridium, a mineral that was only found in a few places in the galaxy. Without ceridium, most alien ships would not be able to travel between star systems. What about the alien contracts? Jack asked. "We supply ceridium to half the galaxy." "Orders are to shut down everything," Lisa replied. "We leave the equipment, but take all the humans." Jack activated the colony's announcement system. "Attention all personnel. We are shutting down operations immediately. All human staff are to report to the transport bay for evacuation within 6 hours." The announcement caused chaos throughout the colony. Alien workers who had been employed alongside humans for years asked what was happening. Human supervisors tried to explain systems to alien replacements who did not understand the complicated mining processes. "The aliens do not know how to run the extractors," said Maintenance Chief Bill Foster. "Without proper maintenance, the equipment will break down within weeks." "That is not our problem anymore," Jack replied sadly. "We are going home." Admiral Charles Hayes sat in his office on Earth, watching reports come in from across the galaxy. Every human ship, station, and colony was following orders. The great withdrawal was happening faster than he had expected. "Admiral," said his aide, Captain Nancy White, "we are receiving thousands of messages from alien governments. They are offering us anything we want if we will change our minds." Charles looked at the list of offers on his computer screen. The Crystalline Collective was offering to triple human voting power in the Council. The Aquatic Federation promised exclusive access to their advanced technology. The Andromedan Assembly offered to make Earth a permanent member of their ruling council. "Too late," Charles said quietly. "They had 50 years to treat us as equals. Now they can learn to live without us." On the screen, he watched as the last human transport ship left the Vega system. The ship was carrying Dr. Phillips and 100 other researchers who had been working on medical projects throughout the galaxy. Behind them, they left diseases uncured, problems unsolved, and chaos beginning to grow. "Sir," said Captain White, "some of the alien governments are asking if this is permanent. They want to know if we will ever come back." Charles thought about the question. He thought about the Galactic Council refusing to stop slavery. He thought about alien species treating humans like children despite everything humans had done for the galaxy. "Tell them," Charles said, "that depends entirely on them." The withdrawal continued for 3 more days. By the end, every human presence in galactic space had been removed. Ships, stations, colonies, research facilities, diplomatic missions. 6 months had passed since the last human ship left galactic space. The galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had expected. What had once been a peaceful community of different worlds was now a collection of angry, frightened groups that did not trust each other. Ambassador Veltar of the Corvan Syndicate sat in his office on the trade world of New Harmony, staring at reports that made his stomach hurt. The Corvan people looked like tall, thin humans, but with blue skin and large black eyes. They had always been good at business and making deals with other species. "Sir," said his assistant, a young Corvan named Dexel, "we have received another message from the Hegemony of Worlds. They are demanding payment for the mining rights on Kepler 7. Veltar rubbed his temples. The Hegemony and the Corvan Syndicate had been arguing about mining rights for 2 years. The humans had been working on a compromise that would have made both sides happy. But now the humans were gone and the 2 groups could not agree on anything. "What exactly are they demanding?" Veltar asked. "They want us to pay triple the original price," Dexel replied. "They say the mining equipment we left behind is now theirs by right of conquest." Veltar felt anger rise in his chest. The Hegemony was led by Lord Grimm, a spider-like creature who had always been difficult to work with. But when humans were around to mediate, Lord Grimm had been forced to be reasonable. Now he was acting like a bully. "Send a message back," Veltar ordered. "Tell them we will pay the original price and nothing more. The mining rights were legally purchased under galactic law." "Sir," Dexel said quietly, "Lord Grimm has also sent ships to the Kepler system. He says if we do not pay, he will take the mining colony by force." Veltar stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the busy streets of New Harmony. This world had been a center of peaceful trade for over a century. Ships from dozens of different species came here to buy and sell goods. But now, many of those ships were carrying weapons instead of trade goods. "The humans would never have let this happen," Veltar said sadly. "They understood both our people and the Hegemony. They knew how to make us work together." 3 star systems away, Lord Grimm of the Hegemony of Worlds was having similar thoughts. He sat in his war room, surrounded by maps and battle plans. His species looked like giant metal spiders, and they had always been warriors first and diplomats. "Second, General Krax," he said to his military commander, "what is the status of our fleet in the Kepler system?" General Krax was smaller than Lord Grimm, but covered in more weapons. "We have 12 battleships surrounding the Corvan mining colony." "They can take the colony in 1 hour if you give the order?" Lord Grimm thought about this. A year ago, he would never have considered attacking a Corvan colony. The humans would have stepped in immediately. Human peacekeepers were tough fighters, and they had a reputation for protecting innocent people. But now the humans were gone. "What about the Galactic Council?" Lord Grimm asked. "Will they try to stop us?" "The Council barely exists anymore," General Krax replied. "Half the members have stopped attending meetings. The other half spend all their time arguing about who is in charge now that the humans are gone." Lord Grimm made his decision. "Attack the colony. Take everything. If the Corvans want to fight, we will give them a fight they will never forget." The attack on the Corvan mining colony was the first major war to break out after the human exodus. But it was not the last. Within weeks, 3 more conflicts had started across the galaxy on the planet Rigel Prime. Captain Thark of the Rigelian Empire was preparing his ships for battle against the Vegan Confederacy. The peace talks that Commander Blake had been mediating were now completely forgotten. Both sides were convinced that the other was planning to attack. "Captain," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Brix, "the vegan ships are moving toward our border. Our spies report they are carrying full weapon loads." Thark looked at the star charts on his table. The small moon that had caused all the trouble was barely worth fighting over. It had some useful minerals, but not enough to justify a war. but without human mediators to help them find a compromise. Both sides had retreated to their old positions. "How many ships do the vegans have?" Thark asked. 57 combat vessels, Brix replied. "We have 63. We can win this fight." Thark nodded slowly. The Regelians were proud warriors who believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. The vegans were careful planners who never took unnecessary risks. Before the humans left, these differences had been balanced by human wisdom. Now they were pushing both sides toward war. "Prepare the fleet," Thark ordered. "If the vegans want a fight, we will give them one." Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in her new office at the Terran Economics Institute on Earth, watching the galactic economy collapse in real time. Her computer screen showed trade routes shutting down, currency values crashing, and entire star systems cutting off contact with the outside galaxy. "Professor Foster," she said to her colleague, "look at these numbers. Galactic trade has dropped by 60% in just 6 months. Professor Alan Foster was a quiet man who had spent his career studying alien economic systems. He looked at Elena's screens and shook his head sadly. "The galactic credit is worthless now," he said. "Without human banks to guarantee the currency, nobody trusts it anymore. Each species is going back to bartering with their own people." Elena pointed to another screen. "And look at this. The shipping lanes that humans used to patrol are now full of pirates. Nobody wants to risk sending trade ships through unprotected space." "What about the neutral zone?" Alan asked. "Complete chaos," Elena replied. 3 different pirate groups are fighting over territory that used to be protected by human patrol ships. Merchant vessels are being attacked every day." Elena had warned the Galactic Council about this exact situation years ago. She had written reports explaining how human economic activity was holding the galaxy together. But the Council had dismissed her concerns as human pessimism. "The worst part," Elena continued, "is that this is just the beginning. Wait until the mining operations start failing. Wait until the medical supplies run out. Wait until the power grids start breaking down because nobody knows how to maintain them." On the former Council world of Altair Prime, Chancellor Vexani was dealing with the biggest crisis of his long political career. The Altarian Confederation had been one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy, but now even his own member worlds were rebelling against his leadership. "Sir," said his aide, Commander Yixtal, "we have received independence declarations from 7 more worlds. They say the Confederation can no longer protect them without human support." Vexani looked out at the crystal towers of his capital city. The Altarians were beings of pure energy who lived inside metal shells. They had always been proud of their advanced technology and their long history, but now that history felt like a burden. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked. 43 out of 87, Yixtal replied. "The remaining worlds are demanding that we recall the humans immediately." Vexani felt something close to panic. The Altarian Confederation had existed for over 3,000 years. It had survived wars, plagues, and economic disasters. But it had never faced a crisis like this. "Have we tried to contact Earth?" he asked. "Many times," Yixtal replied. "They are not answering our messages. Human space is completely sealed off from the rest of the galaxy." Vexani remembered the day the humans had left the council chamber. He had been so confident that the galaxy would be better off without them. He had believed that older, more advanced species could handle galactic affairs better than the young humans. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I was completely wrong." The crisis was not limited to politics and economics. On the medical research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Dr. Zethka was watching patients die from diseases that humans had been close to curing. Dr. Zethka was a member of the Andromedan species, tall and thin with blue skin and large eyes. She had worked alongside human doctors for over a decade, learning their techniques and methods. "Dr. Zethka," said her assistant, "the Centauri fever patients in Ward 7 are getting worse. We have tried everything, but we cannot replicate the human treatment methods." Dr. Zethka looked at the medical files on her computer. "Dr. Karen, Phillips had been so close to finding a cure when she was forced to leave. All of her research was gone, and without human genetic patterns to work with, the remaining alien doctors could not continue her work. "How many patients do we have now?" she asked. "Over 2,000, her assistant replied. "And more are arriving every day from the Outer Rim colonies." Dr. Zethka felt helpless. She was a skilled doctor, but human medicine was different from what her species had developed. Humans had a unique understanding of biological systems that other species had never mastered. "Send another message to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them we have a medical emergency. Tell them people are dying." But like all the other messages sent to human space, this one would receive no reply. Earth had sealed its borders completely. The galaxy that had rejected human leadership was now learning to live without human help, and across the galaxy, the lesson was becoming clear. The humans had not been junior partners in galactic civilization. They had been the foundation that held everything together. 1 year had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy was a very different place. What had once been a community of peaceful worlds was now a collection of warring tribes fighting over scraps. The great civilization that had taken thousands of years to build was crumbling in just 12 months. Chancellor Vexani stood in what used to be the Galactic Council chambers on Altair Prime. The beautiful crystal walls were cracked and dark. Half of the seats were empty because those species had either left the council or been destroyed in the ongoing wars. The remaining members spent their time blaming each other for the disaster. The Coven Syndicate demands justice for the attack on their mining colonies, announced Speaker Quill of the Andromedan Assembly. Her voice was tired and angry. Lord Grimm's forces have taken 17 mining worlds in the past 6 months. Lord Grimm's mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. The Corvins were weak. We took what they could not defend. This is the natural order of things. Natural order? Speaker Quill's blue light flickered with rage. You have destroyed trade. Routes that took centuries to establish. Your war has cost trillions of credits and lost commerce. Commerce means nothing without strength to protect it, Lord Grimm replied. The humans made us all weak with their talk of peace and cooperation. Now we remember what real power looks like. Chancellor Vexani watched this argument with growing despair. Before the humans left, Lord Grimm would never have dared to attack civilian colonies. Human peacekeepers would have stopped him immediately. Human diplomats would have found a solution that satisfied everyone, but now there were no humans to keep the peace. We need to contact Earth, Vexani said suddenly. We need to ask the humans to come back. The chamber became quiet. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but nobody wanted to admit it out loud. The humans left because they chose. "Too," said Lord Grimm. "They abandoned their responsibilities. Why should we beg them to return?" "Because without them, we are destroying ourselves," Vexani replied. "Look around you. Half the galaxy is at war. Trade has collapsed. Entire species are facing extinction. We need human help." "The humans were never that important," Lord Grimm insisted. "We managed galactic affairs for thousands of years before they arrived. We can do it again." But even as Lord Grimm spoke, he knew he was wrong. His own territory was falling apart. The hegemony of worlds had conquered many systems, but he could not hold them together. Without human administrators and peacekeepers, his empire was becoming a collection of angry, rebellious worlds. Captain Rex Vorthak of the Andromedan fleet had been given an impossible mission. His government wanted him to travel to the Sol system and convince the humans to return. But first, he had to get past human defenses, and nobody knew what those defenses looked like. "Captain," said his science officer, Commander Lexta, "we are approaching the edge of the Sol system. I am detecting something strange." Rex looked at the sensor readings on his screen. The space around Earth's solar system looked normal, but his instruments were picking up energy signatures that made no sense. "What kind of energy signatures?" Rex asked. "I have never seen anything like this," Lexta replied. "The power levels are enormous, but I cannot identify the source. It is as if the entire solar system is surrounded by some kind of invisible barrier." Rex had brought 12 of the most advanced ships in the Andromedan fleet. These were vessels that could destroy entire planets if necessary. But as they moved closer to the Sol system, he began to feel very small and very vulnerable. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from inside the system." "Put it through," Rex ordered. The main screen showed a human woman in a military uniform. Rex recognized her from old diplomatic files, Captain Lisa Morgan of the Earth Defense Forces. But she looked different now, more confident, more dangerous. "This is Captain Morgan of the ED's Vigilance," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "You are approaching restricted space. Turn back immediately." "Captain Morgan," Rex replied. "I am Captain Vorthak of the Andromedan Fleet. I come in peace. My government wishes to open negotiations with Earth." "Earth is not interested in negotiations," Captain Morgan said. "You have 60 seconds to turn your ships around and leave this system." "Please," Rex said, "you must understand. The galaxy is in crisis. We need human help. Millions of people are dying." "That is not our problem," Captain Morgan replied. "You made your choice when you ignored our warnings about the slave trade. Now live with the consequences." Rex felt desperate. His mission was to bring the humans back, but they would not even talk to him. What if we offered to change the council? What if we gave humans more power in galactic government? Captain Morgan's expression did not change. "You have 30 seconds. To leave." Rex made a decision that he would regret for the rest of his life. "Prepare weapons," he ordered his crew. "Maybe if we show them we are serious, they will agree to talk." "Sir," said Commander Lexta, "are you sure about this?" "We do not know what defenses they have." "They are just humans," Rex replied. "How dangerous can they be?" The answer came immediately. As soon as Rex's ships powered their weapons, the space around them exploded with activity. Invisible defensive systems that had been hidden throughout the solar system suddenly became visible. Energy beams that could cut through the strongest armor reached out from hidden stations. Missile swarms appeared from empty space and moved toward the Andromedan ships at impossible speeds. "Shields up," Rex shouted. "Evasive maneuvers." But it was already too late. The human weapons were unlike anything Rex had ever seen. They moved faster than his ships could dodge. They hit harder than his shields could absorb. In less than 10 minutes, 11 of his 12 ships were destroyed or disabled. "Captain," Commander Lexta said with panic in her voice, "our engines are offline. Weapons are offline." "Life support is failing." Rex looked at his screen. The EDS Vigilance was approaching his damaged ship. It was much smaller than his flagship, but it had just defeated an entire fleet without taking any damage. "Captain Vorthak," came Captain Morgan's voice over the radio, "consider this a warning. Human space is protected by defensive systems that your technology cannot match. If you ever return here with hostile intent, you will not survive the encounter." Rex felt shock and fear in equal measure. The humans had been holding back. All those years when they served alongside alien forces, they had been using only a fraction of their real capabilities. Now, with diplomacy abandoned, they saw no reason to hide their true strength. "How?" Rex whispered. "How do you have such advanced technology?" "We have always had it," Captain Morgan replied. "We simply chose not to use it while we were trying to work with you peacefully. That time is over." The Vigilance used a tractor beam to push Rex's damaged ship out of the solar system. As his crew worked to repair their engines, Rex stared back at the invisible defenses around Earth. Somewhere behind those barriers, humanity was continuing to advance their technology without any galactic oversight. Dr. Patricia Clark was working in a hidden research facility in the Kuiper Belt, far from Earth but still within the solar system's defensive perimeter. She was one of Earth's top scientists, and for the past year she had been developing new technologies that the galaxy had never imagined. "Dr. Clark," said her assistant, Lieutenant Kevin Brown, "the test results are back from the quantum displacement engine. It works perfectly." Patricia looked at the data on her screen. The quantum displacement engine could move a ship from one place to another instantly, without traveling through the space in between. It was technology that made the galaxy's fastest ships look like ancient sailing vessels. What about the temporal shields? She asked. Also working, Kevin replied. Any ship protected by temporal shields can slow down time around itself. Enemy weapons will move too slowly to hit their target. Patricia nodded with satisfaction. These were just two of the dozens of projects she was working on. For decades, human scientists had shared their discoveries with the galaxy, helping other species advance their technology. But they had always kept their best innovations secret, just in case they were ever needed for defense. The galaxy thought. We were primitive, Patricia said to Kevin. They thought they were more advanced because they had been around longer. They never understood that age does not equal wisdom. What should we do with these new technologies? Kevin asked. Patricia looked out the window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was tearing itself apart. Species that had lived in peace for centuries were now at war. Civilizations that had seemed eternal were collapsing into chaos. We wait, she said. We continue to develop better defenses and better technologies. And we see if the galaxy can learn to value what it has lost. Meanwhile, on the former Council world, Chancellor Vexani received a report that filled him with terror. Captain Vorthak had returned from his mission to Earth with news that shattered any hope of easy reconciliation. The humans have weapons that can destroy our entire fleet without taking any damage, Vorthak reported. They have been hiding their true capabilities for decades. We are not their equals. We never were. Vexani felt the weight of his mistakes crushing down on him. He had dismissed humans as a young, primitive species. 3 years had passed since humanity left the galactic community. The galaxy was now completely broken. Where once there had been hundreds of peaceful worlds working together, there were now only scattered groups of survivors fighting over the remains of a dead civilization. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Daniel Cooper stood in the Global Defense Council meeting room, looking at holographic displays that showed the state of the galaxy. The images were heartbreaking. Entire star systems had gone dark. Worlds that had once been centers of learning and culture were now battlefields or graveyards. Admiral, said President Maria Santos, what is your assessment of the galactic situation? Admiral Cooper was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been watching the galaxy destroy itself for 3 years, and the sight never stopped being painful. Madam President, he said, the situation is worse than our worst predictions. 18 major wars are currently active across the galaxy. 37 species are facing complete extinction. The galactic economy has collapsed entirely. Most worlds have returned to subsistence-level survival. President Santos looked at the other members of the Defense Council. These were some of Earth's smartest and most experienced leaders, but they all looked overwhelmed by the scope of the disaster. What are our options? She asked. Admiral Cooper activated another display that showed 3 different scenarios. We have 3 choices, Madam President. First, we can maintain our isolation and let the galaxy finish destroying itself. Second, we can return under the same conditions as before, accepting that they will probably go back to their old ways once the immediate crisis passes. And the third option? President Santos asked. We return on our terms, Admiral Cooper said firmly. Complete restructuring of galactic government. Human oversight of all major decisions. Recognition of humanity as the leading species in galactic affairs. No more being treated as junior partners. The room became quiet as everyone considered these options. Some council members had been arguing for permanent isolation. They believed that humanity had wasted too much time and effort trying to help species that did not appreciate their sacrifices. Others wanted to return immediately and help end the suffering, regardless of the political consequences. They could not stand watching billions of innocent people die while humanity had the power to save them. Dr. Jennifer Walsh was the youngest person in the room, but her opinion carried great weight. She was a xenopsychologist who had been studying the effects of humanity's withdrawal on alien societies. Madam President, Dr. Walsh said, I have been analyzing the psychological profiles of the major galactic leaders. The trauma of the past. 3 years has fundamentally changed how they view humanity and themselves. Explain, President Santos, said Dr. Walsh, activated her own presentation. It showed psychological profiles of leaders like Chancellor Vexani and the survivors of Lord Grimm's empire. Before we left, Dr. Walsh continued, these leaders saw themselves as our superiors. They believed their age and experience made them wiser than humans, but the collapse has shattered that self-image. They now understand that we were never their students. We were their teachers, Admiral Cooper nodded. Dr. Walsh's analysis matches our intelligence reports. The surviving galactic governments are desperate for our return. They are willing to accept almost any terms we offer. President Santos stood up and walked to the window that looked out over Washington, D.C. The city was peaceful and prosperous. Earth had thrived during its isolation from galactic affairs. Humanity had focused on developing their own technology and culture without having to constantly solve other people's problems. The question, President Santos said, is whether we have a moral obligation to help them, even after how they treated us. Madam President, said General Robert Chun, the head of Earth's military forces, from a strategic perspective, a stable galaxy serves our interests better than a chaotic one. If we let the current situation continue, we may face refugees, pirates, and desperate military forces trying to invade our space. Dr. Walsh added, from a psychological perspective, the galaxy is like a patient in critical condition. If we do not intervene soon, the damage may become permanent. Entire civilizations could be lost forever. President Santos made her decision. Admiral Cooper, prepare Operation Restoration. We will return to galactic space, but we will do so as leaders, not as helpers. The message that went out to the surviving galactic governments was simple and direct. It was broadcast on all frequencies and translated into every known language. This is President Maria Santos of the United Earth Government. Humanity is prepared to return to galactic affairs and assist in rebuilding galactic civilization. Our return is conditional on the following terms: complete restructuring of galactic government under human leadership, immediate cessation of all slavery, exploitation, and aggressive warfare, establishment of the Terran Protectorate to safeguard developing species and maintain galactic peace. These terms are non-negotiable. Any government that accepts these conditions will receive immediate humanitarian and military assistance. Any government that rejects these conditions will be considered hostile to galactic peace. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, messages began arriving from across the galaxy. Even former enemies like the remnants of Lord Grimm's empire sent desperate pleas for help. Chancellor Vexani, who had once dismissed human concerns about slavery, now sent a message that was broadcast across his remaining territory. The Altarian Confederation formally accepts all human terms without reservation. We beg for immediate assistance and place ourselves under human protection. Admiral Jake Morrison, who had been promoted after his role in the original withdrawal, led the first human fleet back into galactic space. He commanded a task force of 50 ships, each equipped with the advanced technologies that Dr. Patricia Clark and her team had developed during the isolation period. The first stop was the former council world of Altair Prime. When Morrison's fleet arrived, they found a world in ruins. The beautiful crystal towers were broken and dark. The spaceports were filled with refugee ships from dozens of different worlds. Admiral, said Captain Lisa Morgan, who was now Morrison's second in command, we are receiving thousands of requests for assistance. Medical emergencies, food shortages, infrastructure failures. Where do we start? Morrison looked at the data streaming across his screens. The scope of the disaster was enormous, but he had expected this. Humanity had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Deploy the humanitarian fleets, Morrison ordered. Medical ships to worlds with plague outbreaks. Engineering ships to worlds with infrastructure failures. Military ships to areas with ongoing conflicts. And send a message to all human colonies: we are back in business. Dr. Curran Phillips was aboard one of the medical ships heading to the Outer Rim colonies. She had spent 3 years on Earth, continuing her research into alien diseases without alien test subjects. Now, she was finally able to return to her work of saving lives. "Dr. Phillips," said her new assistant, Lieutenant Paul Davis, "we are approaching the Kepler system. The Centauri fever outbreak has spread to 47 worlds." Karen looked at the medical supplies in her ship's cargo bay. Earth scientists had not been idle during the isolation. They had developed cures for dozens of diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. "Begin preparing the treatment doses," Karen ordered, "and send a message to the local medical authorities. Tell them we have a cure." The work of rebuilding. The galaxy was enormous, but humanity was no longer doing it alone or without recognition. The new Terran Protectorate had authority over all major galactic decisions. Human administrators oversaw the reconstruction of trade routes. Human peacekeepers enforced the new laws against slavery and exploitation. Human scientists shared their advanced technologies, but only with species that had proven their commitment to peaceful cooperation. Chancellor Vexani found himself working as an assistant to a human administrator named Director Sarah Williams. A year earlier, this would have been unthinkable humiliation. Now, he was grateful for the chance to help rebuild his civilization under human guidance. "Director Williams," he said during one of their daily meetings, "the Rigelian and vegan representatives have agreed to your peace proposal. They are ready to sign the new territorial agreement." Director Williams nodded. She was a young woman, barely 30 years old, but she had more wisdom and experience in conflict resolution than most galactic leaders twice her age. "Good," she said. "Schedule the signing ceremony for next week. And make sure both sides understand that any violation of the agreement will result in intervention by the Terran Protectorate." Vexani marveled at how easily Director Williams solved problems that had seemed impossible just months earlier. The humans had a way of cutting through the complicated politics and ancient grudges that had paralyzed galactic government for centuries. "Director," Vexani said quietly, "may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. How did your people become so wise so quickly?" "My species has existed for thousands of years, but we never learned what you seem to understand instinctively." Director Williams smiled sadly. "We learned because we had to. Human history is full of wars, mistakes, and disasters. We learned cooperation because the alternative was extinction.